You ready for this?
Beautiful. Let's do it.
So, Alora Rose. Alora Rose, what have you got going on right now?
Got a lot going on right now. I'm really focused on my private practice, my somatic therapy work.
What's somatic mean?
Somatic means of the body.
It means of the body.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any synonyms to somatic?
I don't know about synonyms.
Because you got to admit, it's kind of a word that's like not used every day.
It's not used every day, but it's definitely becoming more and more of a buzzword, especially in the personal growth, transformation, spiritual community spaces.
But I noticed how you didn't say healing.
I didn't say healing.
How come?
I mean, it is a healing modality, but I've definitely started to steer away from the concept of healing in a lot of ways because, it tends to, in our minds, sort of pathologize or cause us to feel like we're broken or there's something wrong. And with the work that I do and the perspective that I hold, it's really holding the truth of that, we have everything we need. We are already whole already. We are just clearing out aspects of the false self, aspects of programming, conditioning, traumas, impacts, imprints from the multidimensional body or bodies in order to really return to a state of the true self, of wholeness, of the higher self, really reinforced within the physical vessel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And before we dive too much further down that road, I gotta ask, only because you're the first white person in my life I've met with a jewelry piece on their forehead right there. So what's the story behind that? I gotta know.
Well, I mean, I love jewelry and decorations and little accoutrements, and this is a little jewelry piece for my third eye, and it just helps. It helps activate the third eye, just kind of put me into a little bit more of a magical, self-expressive state.
I can appreciate that. Okay, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I'll bring one for you next time.
No, I'm not going to wear that. I'm a man, and I don't think it would look too cool if I wore that. Unless you
never
really
know.
think so.
I mean,
No, you see, I know.
It might bring out some archetype that you just.
I don't want to know that archetype.
Play with a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So you're helping people, right? What does it look like if somebody calls you up and says, "Alora, I got a referral from a friend. They said I should talk to you."
Yeah.
How do you help them?
Well, mostly I'm asking questions. I really, want to know what their experience of life, of reality is in this moment, what they are looking to alchemize, transmute, expand into, and, what they believe is possible for their existence. A lot of the work that I do, yes, is quote unquote healing work, but it's really about supporting people and returning to their mission and their purpose in this life. And that is, in my experience, really been a process of supporting people and returning to the truth of themselves, because there's a lot, that tends to steer us in directions that are, not from our own volition. And yeah, there's a roadmap and a divine design that I believe everybody has laid out for them. And so much of my work is really supporting people in remembering that, reawakening to that, and returning to that intuitive guidance, that higher self navigation system that already exists within them.
Mm. Yeah, intuition is probably the fourth time it's come up, and it's such a easy to read way in the past 2 weeks in my life. Here it is, number 4. Okay, so we got to. It's a message, I guess. We got to talk a little bit about intuition. You're helping people tap back into that. Is that right? Yeah,
it's part of it. Yeah,
it's part of a big part of it.
Yeah.
What do you think? You said a couple of things get in the way typically. What do you think gets in the way?
Yeah. Well, in my perspective, in the way that I see it, I really work with the the person, with the being in a very multi-dimensional way. So we're working with the physical body, but understanding that the physical body is what houses our consciousness and our frequency, our vibration, and that consciousness has a neurochemical signature. It has a certain system of physiological health that dictates our thoughts, dictates our emotions, and therefore kind of gives us a certain percentage of access to our truth, our true self, our higher self. And
dang.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I'll stop there. Yeah. That was a lot of information.
No, it's really good. Yeah. So you help people. Well, I don't know if I got my answer I was looking for. What gets in the way? If you were to say like the top two things that gets in the people's way as they get older and they start listening to other things, they put down their intuition. What happens to them?
Well, so much of our experience in this life, in this incarnation, is there's a lot of inputs. There's a lot of conditioning,
all day,
program and experiences and traumas, things that are not in accordance with our truth, with our true selves, that get layered in our psyche and in the physical density of our body that then dictate our experience and our choices. And oftentimes, we're making choices from a program, from a value set, from a certain set of inputs that are not aligned with our truth, with our intuition, whether it be, what our parents told us, what our church or religion told us, what our college told us, or the experiences we have that can be typified as trauma that cause us to believe certain things about ourselves that are not true, that, kind of create limitations in our experience, create limitations in our ability to choose a higher expression of reality.
Dang.
Yeah.
When you say higher expression of reality, if you were to explain that to a 5-year-old, how would you educate them on that?
Yeah, let's see.
Because you gotta admit, again, it's not every day you hear, especially a guy like me that's doing real estate stuff. I'm not saying higher expression of reality to my people.
Well,
so what is that?
I think it's about only believing there are certain things available to you. So because of what you were exposed to, or maybe because of what you were taught, a child who maybe has profound innate spiritual wisdom has direct access to their higher self, to a body of knowledge that just moves through them. Perhaps the higher, the highest expression of that would be being a spiritual teacher and be on stages and have, thousands of followers and students that are receiving that wisdom and that message. But because of their experience, their family, their programming, their traumas, their perceived limitations, they end up, only teaching first grade at a public school and, stay in a very small box that is not the shape of them or the size of them.
Dang. Oh, snap. Whoa. Yeah, you know what I'd call those types of things that we're describing? I'd call them nuisances and annoyances. They're those things that suppress us, that we didn't ask for. It's just the way the world is, right? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of just part of kind of what we came down here to recognize and to realize and to be on the journey of, is remembering and reawakening to our divinity, to our true power, our true essence. And, that's
when you say
part
true,
of the adventure.
I agree.
Yeah.
It is. And when you say true, how do you know it's true?
Yeah,
how do you know?
It's a good question, and that's a big part of the remembering and kind of awakening process. There are so many layers of almost truth or untruth or distorted truth or somebody else's truth or truth that is applicable at a certain time, at a certain stage of the journey or the evolutionary process. And, you know, I don't know necessarily what ultimate truth looks like, but I think we're always going in that direction if that is our intention.
Dang. Yeah. What would you call that period of time or that place? What would you call that? A groove? What's the word that you all use?
I mean, for me, I call it being in the divine flow.
Boom. Yeah. Being in the divine flow.
That makes sense to me.
Okay. Again, hey, fifth grader, this is how you get in the divine flow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What would you tell them to do?
I would tell them to do what brings them joy and follow their curiosity. And, you know, what would they do all by themselves, or if nobody was watching or nobody was telling them what to do? Just what makes them feel most fully alive and like themselves, and what feels like play to you.
Whoa. Yeah. So I'm going to share a little story here.
Great.
I don't talk enough about myself on here. Somebody told me that
I love
the other
to know
day.
some...
Yeah. So I had that window of time. I grew up in a house that was very hot and cold. And it wasn't the most pleasant of experiences. And then I was very proud of myself when I went to the Navy SEAL program right out of high school. I was like, oh, this is what it feels like to be proud of something. This is great. My friends, my family, everybody's like, yeah, way to go. Go get them. I'm like, whoa, cool. And then I got a hip injury. The carpet got pulled out from underneath me. I was very sad. Very sad. I was like, okay, now what? This was like the best time of my life. Hands down. Amazing. And I said to myself, when I was in this like purgatory phase, when I was processing out of the military, I was very alone. It was a desolate, cold experience. And I said, this is a pivotal time in my life. I said, how am I going to live if nobody's watching? And I thought about that every day. I was super intentional. That wasn't my plan going into that phase. It just came to me. I said, this is how I'm going to use this time. And I think that being fearless was something that was pretty significant. It kept flashing at me, flashing to me, whatever. But not everybody gets that window of time like that to think and to say, hey, how do I really want to live? How do I want to write this story? Right?
Yeah.
They don't get that. Is that true?
People, I believe that's true, and that's
sure?
a really powerful time. And not many people. I actually believe not many people choose that time. I believe that many people are initiated into that period of time. I had a very similar initiation that also had something to do with my hip that really forced me into that space of, you know, what is my truth? How do I want to live? What do I need to deconstruct? What do I need to rebuild? And it was a deep spiritual initiation, and you know, kind of that dark night of the soul experience that, you know, forced me inward. But I don't know where or how I would have chosen to go in at that depth without really kind of being required to, like spirit really shoving me into that. Yeah.
Like you're going into the cave.
Yeah.
The absolutely. Dark cave. You don't know what's going on, but you know you got to be in there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. How could you say that people, if you were to suggest an activity to them to manufacture that same experience, is that possible?
Yeah, in short doses. And, you know, I think that's the goal of meditation and breath work, float tanks or dark room experiences, even, you know, a yoga practice, anything that, you know, is getting you into a state where you're, you know, kind of putting the thinking mind and the default mode network on the back seat and tapping into a different brainwave state that allows you to access the subconscious and really listen to and receive those messages.
Yeah. Okay. So you can manufacture it. Yeah. I would recommend for anybody to do that if they haven't.
Yeah.
Book time for themselves.
As possible. Because, I mean, a lot of times it's like, if you don't do it for yourself, it will be done for you. And it's,
and you're not prepared.
Usually a lot rougher that way.
Yeah. And then I think to fast track and to fine tune it and get as much clarity as possible, to squeeze every last drop out of that kind of thing, work with someone like yourself. Yeah.
I mean, the process that I take people through is like each session is like a mini psychedelic journey, a mini ceremony. We're going really deep and working with a lot of systems simultaneously and integrating in real time. So, something that would take people through either, one modality or in different systems, years upon years, and a lot of integration time we can really do in a very short period of time. It's very efficient and really allows people to stay integrated in the third dimension and in this realm while they're traversing those spaces.
Cool. Yeah. Love that. Way to go.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Doing my best.
So this podcast is called Austin Elite Podcast. No longer Pivotal Moments Podcast. It's Austin Elite.
We'll have a good rebrand.
We take the best of the best in the industry that are based in Austin, or whatever industry they're in based in Austin. So what makes you the best? Or what are you the best at? That's a better question. What would you say you're the best at?
I really believe that I am one of the best in this field, in the somatic therapy field, in the quantum healing, multidimensional transformation space. And inside of that space, really feel like I am one of the best at creating safety for one's truth to really emerge and integrate into their beingness.
Dang. Just having you say that, I am putting myself in a visualization of in a room with you, and you're saying, hey, look, everything's going to be okay. And then I can just picture either myself or a prospective client just crying instantly when you say that. Because think about how little amounts of time we actually feel safe in any given day. We're always like, I got to do this. I got to go here. I got to help this person. This is going on all day. And then you go to sleep. It's like, whoa, pump the brakes. Let's put a flashlight on all this stuff. Do people cry a lot when they work with you? Do they? Sometimes
there's a fair amount of crying if needed. I mean, there are so many different types of release and catharsis, and everybody releases a little bit differently. Everybody kind of has their particular pathway for release. Some people, it's a lot of crying. I'm definitely one of those people. Crying is a big part of the medicine that works for me. Some people, it's a lot of laughter, or a lot of just bioenergetic tremoring or physiological energetic releases. So it looks different every time, but certain people definitely have a unique signature for processing and catharsis and release.
You've experienced all of those.
Oh yeah.
I've never seen anybody have a bioenergetic processing thing. I've never seen that.
No?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Which means what you're doing is working.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's good to be able to actually see it and have, tangible, visible
results,
confirmation that things are moving.
Yes. So you're in Austin, okay? You, what are you doing outside of work? What kind of things? What kind of Austin things are you living up? What have you been up to other than, this stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like in the last few years, especially, the context and kind of routine of my life looks pretty different than it did for, I've lived in Austin on and off actually since 2002. And kind of back and forth while I was in college, and then spent a lot of time in New York and California, and have lived in Austin kind of for the last 3 years while bouncing between Costa Rica and Bali. But, I think whereas life in kind of pre-2020 was a lot more New York urban city-based lifestyle, going to, yoga classes and workshops and educational events and cultural events and restaurants and lounges and like being out in the city and kind of in urban culture. Life now looks a lot like meditating with the trees and playing with my dog and swimming in natural spring water and just being more in nature and kind of with close friends and community, and a lot less like in public spaces and in the world.
Yeah. What would you attribute all that to?
I mean, just really a lot of recalibration with my own energy body, really kind of coming to a lot more clarity with what is most supportive for me environmentally, and just knowing what spaces are supportive and are not, and places where there's a lot of noise, a lot of lights, kind of like high population density are just not as conducive to my thriving as hanging with the trees and playing with dogs.
So like a shopping mall.
Yeah, shopping mall. Just can't do it anymore.
Not gonna fit in your flow.
Bless free delivery and returns with the online shopping.
Amazon. Yeah. 2 plugs for Amazon already. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're having fun with your friends. You're staying out in nature a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Life's pretty simple and pretty quiet, and on most of the time, and then there will be windows of time where it's like a lot of traveling and going to festivals and dancing till sunrise, and very full spectrum, but in contained pockets.
Yeah. Now, you've been traveling a lot all over the place, back and forth as well. Mm-hmm. So is your intention the same thing? Is your focus the same focus no matter where you're at? Or does it switch? Like, let's say you're in Bali, you're focused on this. Mm. Then you're back in Austin, you're focused on something different. Or is it all the same focus no matter where you're at?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the focus is typically relatively similar. There are different seasons of life, and over the years, each place has kind of housed a different template for life and intention and what I'm doing in that iteration of my journey. But the experience of each place is quite different, and kind of what energy I need to imprint, what awarenesses need to be unlocked, what activations that particular place or the people in it have for me. And a lot of that is not, I don't go into any of that knowing what all of those things are going to be. I know that I'm called to certain places, and grew up living overseas, so it's kind of just been ingrained in my being and in my patterning to move and travel and seek quite a lot, and just know that there are certain places at certain times that have something for me, and I may have a rough idea, but I'm usually surprised with plenty of other things.
Well, it sounds like you're practicing what you preach. Right? You're following your intuition.
Yeah.
And I bet it's pretty hard to stay in the same place when you're doing that.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
So with all that curiosity, you want to see what else is out there.
Yeah.
What other people are doing, how they live, right? Mm-hmm. That's good. I think we got a pretty good picture of what you're doing now. Right now in Austin. Is there anything we might have missed?
I mean, I think what's really exciting about being in Austin right now, particularly in this industry and in this space, is there's just so much energy around collaboration and co-creation, and the intersection of all of these worlds and communities and what we are visioning and building in terms of, really this new reality, this new earth possibility that I think we all see and have a unique contribution for and in is something that I'm very attuned to and very in the mix of conversations around. And it's really exciting that, some of the best in the world in the personal transformation space and the spiritual communities, in the spaces of crypto and real estate development and psychedelics, and there's a convergence of really important thought leaders and visionaries that are creating spaces and worlds that have all of these components in them. And being involved in those conversations is something that is also a big part of my reality right now.
Yeah, or I brought up how Kaylee's on that yacht trip in Norway. Mm-hmm. There's like 125 people there, and a bunch of them were like they're authors about spirituality and people, and they're featured on TEDx a bunch of times. All these big thinking people, and a bunch of them, are from Austin. Yeah. I'm like, what's up with that? Where's the New Yorkers at? Yeah, it's crazy. This is like the hub.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
New York is the old world now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Nicely said. Oh, and so speaking of those types of people, one man's name flashed to my mind. Actually, a vivid picture of his face right here. A guy named Ronnie Landis. Actually, a past podcast guest. That guy's really doing it too.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome guy. Awesome guy. So, all right, cool. Now, we're going to have a little fun here because whenever I do this segment, it's like I'm watching a freaking movie of the guest's life, all right? This is a special experience, and I'm sure I don't know why I feel this way. I'm sure that you've got a lot of stories to share.
Got a few.
So buckle your seatbelts, folks. We're going to go on a wild ride on a magic school bus back to who knows when, but I do know where, and I'm pretty sure it's Kerrville, Texas, where it all started.
Where it all began.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay, so let me ask you this. You're 5 years old. Do you remember what house you're living in at 5?
Not exactly, because I lived in, I think, 10 or 11 different houses in the 10 years that I lived in Kerrville, Texas as a child. We moved every year. Myself, my parents, and my little brother.
Family of 4?
Mm-hmm. Family.
Okay. And why did you move so much?
One reason or another, we were renting and the owners wanted to sell the house, or quite a few times actually. My parents are both public school teachers, and when they first got married, they taught in Santiago, Chile, and their dream, their vision was to be school teachers in international schools and spend their career living and working abroad. So many times we moved because we were supposed to go to certain overseas locations, but one thing or another fell through, and so we'd have to transition still within Kerrville. One financial or logistical variable after another.
Well, we got to give credit where credit's due. I think it's super cool that your parents had that dream and they pursued it. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. Yeah. And it's not easy being a teacher. No. I give all the credit in the world to teachers.
Yeah, they're beautiful people with big hearts and really very, very service oriented, and they did it. They spent good majority of their profession working and living abroad, and we had my brother and I had a really exceptional childhood and got to do so much traveling and see and experience so much of the world at a very young age, and with parents in a profession that we wouldn't have been able to do that if we would have just stayed in the U.S. and lived off of a teacher's salary or two.
So it just took them 10 moves, and then they were able to get on out of town.
I finally clicked it.
Okay. Oh, way to go. Hey, persistence.
Yeah.
So do you remember at all, like, anything about the houses that you lived in at that age? Like, do you remember a few of them when you were that young?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just don't know when exactly. Okay, that's fine. So when you got home from elementary school, first grade, what was the ambiance like in the house?
Well, because my parents had the same schedule as I did, and I was always in the same schools as them, we kind of traveled as a family, for better or worse. But my parents, I remember they'd be grading papers. I'd be either riding horses with my mom or playing basketball with my dad, reading a lot of books, playing in the Guadalupe River, spending a lot of time with the many animals that we had at the house.
How many animals?
Many at different times. We had horses, like maybe 2 or 3 dogs at a time, a cat or 2, gerbils, guinea pigs, hermit crabs.
Serious?
The works.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It's fun.
Okay. Now, you weren't always in a house, though. You might have been in an apartment.
We were always in houses.
Oh, you're always
in
in
my childhood.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, until we moved overseas, we were in houses.
Okay, good. Yeah, because you need a yard for all those kind of animals and stuff. You need some space. All right. But it was like relatively upbeat inside the house?
Yeah, as far as I can remember.
I'm talking way back.
Yeah, way back. I mean, I remember, just, it was a simple, small town kind of country girl life. I remember a couple of times we lived at homes that were kind of either next to or maybe semi-farms. I remember a chicken coop somewhere and going to like pick up chicken eggs and just like little small town country girl. Yeah.
I grew up on a farm. I did.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Picked up the chicken eggs. We had turkeys, ducks, chickens. The farmer himself, we're on a house on the farm, just for clarification. But yeah, we did all this stuff, and he had sheep, corn. It's good, right?
So good.
Good memories.
I know. I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
I want to get closer to that again as time goes on. Maybe like a Costa Rican food farm with peacocks and howler monkeys.
Costa Rica?
Yeah.
Howler monkeys? Do they have any diseases?
No.
Okay. Because some do.
They're very healthy.
If you get bit by certain monkeys, you're in trouble.
No, these are the non-biting disease-free kind.
Okay. All right. Good. So everything's pretty happy inside the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you remember the most about that age? What vivid memories do you have?
Well, pre age 7.
Yeah.
I remember things just being very, very simple and quiet, and like life was about horses and animals and books and going camping, and my grandparents and most of my cousins and extended family lived in the same town. I'm the oldest of 10, 12 cousins, so there weren't many of them around yet. They were all born kind of after I turned 4 or 5. But yeah, that window of time, just felt really quaint and simple. I remember my parents kind of, typically in that demographic being like stressed about money, and like we definitely I grew up with very meager means. And
do you remember the types of conversations your parents would have with you about money back then?
I mean, they never talked directly to me about it.
Well, would they say things like...
But yeah, I mean, I remember all like arguments and all stress seemed to stem from stress around money. It was very, very obvious and prominent just in the space and in my field. Okay. And
did they ever tell you no to things?
Oh, all the time. I mean, my biggest, my biggest was, like having to, whenever we'd go grocery shopping, like of course you'd want the things that you'd see in the commercials with the beautiful labels and like the Jif peanut butter and the branded cereal, but it's like the generic like white label, just peanut butter and like the jar that just said jelly. It wasn't like Smucker's jelly. It was just grape jelly, and I found that really disheartening. Smuckers. But we would make do.
You're a little girl. You're like, Mom, I want the Smuckers.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed really significant, and it actually is. Like I really remember that, like being very aware that, like there were certain things that I couldn't have that I wanted because we didn't have enough money. And I remember at that age, one of my best friends was like the wealthiest kid at school. Her family owned this massive summer camp in Carvel, and I go to her house, and it's, I mean, just snacks and trampolines and toys and magazines galore. And my other best friend was probably the poorest kid at school. And she lived in like this dilapidated shack on the like kind of just around the corner from the school, and her parents were never there. She was sort of being raised by her 13-year-old older sister. There were 10 kids in the house. So
Dang.
really like saw and experienced that dichotomy, and was very aware of, the kind of the spectrum of finances at that age.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you're that age, everybody's friends with everybody.
Yeah.
I'm sure as time went on, you probably saw some separation in the friends groups. Yeah. Did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, when I turned 7, I actually was invited into the competitive gymnastics program at a private gymnastics training club.
You're a gymnast.
Yeah, I was a very serious competitive gymnast.
Are you still a gymnast?
I can still do a trick or two.
Flips?
Yeah,
okay.
Do a flip or two. Still got my handstand.
I can't do
pretty
a flip.
Solid.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's
Flips
kind of amazing how those things like
really
stay
right
in the body.
I was going to do a flip here. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, from age 7 till 12, when we moved overseas, pretty much all of my time outside of school was in training.
Mm.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot of training.
Yeah, kind of friend groups and kind of normal childhood things at that age started to really dissipate and go into the background. And I was training probably 40 to 50 hours a week during the school year as like a 7-8-year-old, and then
it's kind of
about 80 hours a week during the summers when school.
How is that legal?
I know.
How is that a thing?
I know.
Seriously?
It's pretty intense.
I don't kids train that much?
I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, the training programs that I was involved in were actually modeled after the former Soviet Union and Romanian systems of training that were
Look, they don't have anything else to do up there.
Exactly.
That's all they do.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's part of their like actual basic survival. But
flips off trees and stuff. What the heck?
Yeah, it was pretty intense, very serious. Yeah, and before we moved overseas, I was at the stage where I was gonna basically have to make the decision to stop public school and start homeschooling so I could train 90 to 100 hours. So,
gymnastics.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course you still got it in you.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Better after that much
Goodness
time and
gracious.
energy.
Yeah, did you win any gold medals?
I did.
In the Olympics?
I didn't go all the way to the Olympics, but I was
probably
a couple. Yeah, I mean that was the goal, and that was the track that I was on. If I would have stayed in the States, I would probably have been a year or two out from that. Yeah.
Okay. So 7 is when you embarked upon that.
Yeah, I started my professional training career.
Yeah. Did they happen to cause any strife in your life at 7, 8, 9? Did you ever feel alone because of that?
Well, my family became my gymnastics team, and and my coach.
Yeah.
I spent the majority of my waking hours with that family, so felt very connected to the people in that space. But it is an individual sport, and it's very it can. I think the loneliness aspect definitely came into play when, I knew that I couldn't do what normal kids were doing. Couldn't go to summer camp, didn't go to birthday parties, or never watched TV, or, did any after school activities.
How'd that impact?
My life was very different from most kids.
Yeah. Was it okay?
Yeah. I mean, I felt okay about it. I fully chose it, it was what I wanted to do, and felt very called to that lifestyle, and had a lot of big ambitions around it, and kind of knew what it required, and
you did
fully invested.
You chose all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because your parents, they're teachers. It's not like they're former Soviet practitioners of gymnastics, so they were like, do this 100 hours. And you're like, okay, mom and dad. No, you're like, I want to do it.
No, my parents never had to encourage or bribe or persuade me to do anything. I was very self-driven and motivated.
What's up with that?
I mean, a few perspectives on it. I think a lot of it, was actually really based in perfectionism, which is based in fear and based in this mechanism of, this is how I get love. This is how I stay safe. This is how I, get my needs met by being perfect, being the best, being exceptional in this system of rules and this system of expectations that I learned how to operate in and was determined to master. It was kind of like one algorithm for safety and survival in the way that I was approaching it. I obviously was not conscious of that at the time, but I, just doing the work that I do now and reflecting a lot more, even just in recent years on that period of time in my life, really see a lot of the aspects of scarcity, fear, survival that were motivating that. It was, really this understanding of how do I not necessarily get out of these kind of very meager, very limiting circumstances, but how do I carve a path for myself that I design, that I decide, and something that will give me the tools and the resources to create a more exceptional experience of this life. Yeah.
Why were you scared? Why didn't you feel safe?
Yeah. A lot of the money fear and money conversations and conflict around money.
Were they yelling?
Oh yeah.
There was yelling.
There's a lot of
that sucks.
There's a lot of yelling, a lot of hiding and crying in bathrooms, slamming doors, and
that's traumatic.
Totally,
for sure.
Really scary.
Those parents, what are you doing yelling around your kids? No, seriously. Look, I'm like having flashbacks right now. I'm like, that's freaking scary. The people that you're like, no, protect me. No, they're all like going nuts. No.
Yeah, and I mean,
control yourselves.
Having compassion for them and just knowing how much fear they were experiencing, how much scarcity and lack and just basic survival instincts were being activated in and through them to react and behave that way, and just the tools that they were working with at the time. But
yeah, mature of you to say. And here's who's going to listen to that message. Here's who should listen to that message. There's kids out there right now whose parents are yelling all the time, and they sadly have to put on that adult hat and say, you know what? I'm going to have compassion for these people that are supposed to protect me and know that they might not have it all together, and see how I can help. Really, what's the answer? How do you cope with that as a kid when your parents are screaming?
Yeah. I was a very natural therapist and healer and helper from a very young age. I remember being 4 or 5 years old, writing self-help books for my mom and kind of coaching and counseling my parents on how to be healthier and happier and just live in a state of joy and fulfillment in, a way that I hoped and desired for them, that I could really perceive they were not experiencing.
5-year-old writes self-help book.
I know.
I've never heard that in my life. That's wild. Way to go.
Fully authored and illustrated.
Yeah, where can we get a copy? On Amazon?
Definitely.
Way to go. Dang, okay. We got a savant over here.
Sure.
It's hilarious. This is how you are happy. This is what joy feels like. You can have this every day. Oh, all right. Okay, so let's get on to the elementary school experience. Was everything kosher in class, in the classroom?
as far
walking
as I
through the
can
hallways.
remember, yeah.
Did you have a boyfriend in elementary school?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I had one in 5th grade named Christina. And then I actually dated her when I was in high school. Fast track for a little bit. Short one. Yeah. But still, it's like wild.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You
I
know
remember
what I'm
having little boyfriends in kindergarten. Like just boys I had crushes
how young
on.
kids
I know.
have boyfriends and girlfriends. Or like 5. It's crazy.
I mean, we didn't necessarily talk to each other or interact.
It's scary.
My boyfriend.
Yeah. Barely so.
I decided. I chose him.
Okay. So, all right. And then was everything, did you ever like lose control when you're in the classroom? Did you ever get in super amount of trouble?
Oh, no. I was like a very good, like straight A, follow the rules, like, kind of kid.
I noticed that girls, my guess, they seem to have similar patterns with that. Very rarely do you get a young girl that's like going crazy in elementary school. Yeah. I forgot to hear that actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was really good at operating within a structure and a system of rules. I was like, okay, this is how we survive here. This is how we excel here. Like, what do I have to do? Who do I have to become? Like, okay, I got it. I will be the best. I will be perfect at it. And I don't remember this so much, but my parents tell me that I actually, as a young child, had like an incredible amount of energy pre going to school. I was always bouncing off the walls, and I broke multiple pieces of furniture from like bouncing and vaulting over them. And I was just like always going. But once school started, it was like, oh no, we can't be like that. We can't do that. We have to sit and be still and concentrate and pay attention and focus. Good and, discipline. Follow the rules. So, I don't agree with that system anymore, but I understand kind of the way that I was operating within it, and kind of see how that carried through in so many other contexts in my life, and just being very adaptable and being a chameleon, and really understanding like, okay, this is the context, and how do I really align to it for ultimate approval or excellence.
So excellence equals love.
Yeah,
or it did.
At least. At least that was kind of what I decided, the mechanism I was working within.
You chose it.
Yeah. It's like that. Seems logical.
Anybody can choose theirs. Does everybody choose theirs?
To an extent, I believe that everybody does choose it, but it's not a conscious choice.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And how do you tap into that subconscious piece to really figure it out? How do you do it? How do you find it? It boils down to your core values, right? Are they part of your core values?
Yeah, I think core values is part of it, and I also I really believe that it's kind of this investigation in how we've responded to our most traumatic and difficult experiences. It's like, what is the survival skill? What is the survival mechanism that a part of you adopted to work within your circumstances? And, just really, really recognizing that the psyche is profoundly intelligent and is always making choices to survive and to thrive in the operating system that it understands, is really doing the best with what it knows how to do in the circumstances that are available to it.
So a little self-reflection here. I think that I've struggled with authenticity because I think I had, for the majority of my life, a good huge chunk of it, it was always masking like this pain that was looming in the background, for so many different reasons. And that just becomes your habit. Like, you always want to pretend to be happy, pretend to be pumped up and all that stuff, because it's like, where does the fear come from there? I think that, thinking about it, I was afraid to be vulnerable. So why are you afraid to be vulnerable? Because if you're vulnerable, you can get hurt more than you've already been hurt. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Authenticity is a big one, huh? Right. That comes up a lot, I'm sure, with you and your clients. Talk about that stuff.
Yeah, what I mean, like you see the utility, you see the intelligence in that, in the architecture of that coping strategy, in that mechanism. It makes sense. And you also see where maybe it was imprinted or implanted, or, you picked up on something that caused you to operate in that way. And, also see now kind of from a different vantage point where there's a greater opportunity for true authenticity, and how that will actually liberate you into a new experience, and one that's more in alignment with what you desire and what you deserve.
Dang, this is good. This is real good. Okay, let's keep cruising. So middle school can be kind of weird.
It was very weird.
It was. How many times did you move in middle school?
So I was still in Kerrville in 6th grade, and then going into 7th grade, my family moved to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Why are you smirking when you say that?
Because middle school was just such a wild time, and very, very difficult, very confusing, very challenging time. Yeah.
Can you speak Malaysian?
I cannot. While I was there, Malaysia is actually a really interesting country and culture, because there's the indigenous Malay people who speak their own indigenous language called Bahasa Melayu. And then there's an equal percentage of the population that are Indian and speak Hindi. And then another portion of the population that are Chinese and speak Cantonese or Mandarin. And so there's also equally split religious populations between Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, a little bit of Christianity, but it's a beautiful melting pot in its own way, and really right in the center of Southeast Asia. So there's just an incredible cultural diversity and amazing food, amazing just a really beautiful hub to explore that part of the world from, and it was almost literally latitude and longitude wise on the exact opposite side of the planet, and obviously a very different reality from the one that I was living in small town Kerrville, Texas.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
How'd you make your friends? You didn't speak their language.
No. I was going to an international school.
Good.
So
glad they had one.
Yeah, they have a few actually. Okay. They have a few international schools, and then they have a French school, a British school, a Japanese school. There's a lot of expats, expatriates living in many of these developing countries, and companies, diplomats, industries from more developed nations will bring leaders from different industries to help support in the development of these kind of third or second world countries. So there's a lot of international kids there.
Yeah, lucky.
Yeah, very lucky.
So you're in Malaysia for how long?
So for 4 years.
4 years. That's a good chunk. Okay.
Yeah, 7th through 10th grade.
What was it like in the household? Because your parents moved. They wanted the new jobs, right? Were they yelling about money?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, 2 or 3 years prior to going to Malaysia, we were supposed to move to former Yugoslavia, what is now a whole combination of Eastern European countries. But when that happened, both my parents gave up their jobs. We sold everything we owned. We gave away our animals. We got rid of everything prior to leaving for this overseas posting. And this was right as their civil war was starting and escalating. So about 2 weeks before we were supposed to move, we got a telegram taped on the door of our home saying, "Don't come, the school is shut down, the violence has gotten too bad. Sorry." So we had nothing, and really, you know, like no savings at the time. And luckily my mom was very quickly able to get another full-time job, but my father was out of work for the next 2 or 3 years, and we had to kind of like reaccumulate material possessions. So that period of time was especially difficult financially, and especially difficult on my mom being the sole breadwinner, really. And so when they both got these positions in Malaysia, it was actually a huge relief from a financial and kind of career status standpoint. My father actually got a really great position at that school, being the athletic director and coaching all of the sports. And they both got positions that they were really happy with and really excited about. So that alleviated a lot of financial stress, but you know, then of course a whole other set of things get thrown into the mix, you know.
Come on.
Yeah,
Wow.
but always an adventure.
Did your parents take you to and from school because you're going to the same school?
So we lived in a condominium complex that was walking distance from the school.
So you would walk to school?
Mm-hmm, yeah, walk to school or rollerblade to school.
It was safe?
Oh yeah, very safe.
Rollerbladed?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you remember your rollerblades?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
What color were they?
Like black.
Black rollerblades, classic.
Pretty
Okay.
classic.
I remember my first rollerblades. Yeah, they were actual blades.
Oh wow.
With the big break on the back.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, real cool.
Yeah, it's tense. I still have a real big scar on the back of my leg from a. So it's probably one dent in the hip situation.
Yeah. So you're going to school, and what was it like when you got home? I mean, it seems like things kind of took a turn for the better in Malaysia, of all places.
Yeah.
Right. What was it like? I mean, how'd your parents talk to you? Were they super supportive the whole time, or were they hard on you? What was it like?
They weren't hard on me, but around that age, I started to, you know, I was a going on 13-year-old girl, you know, middle school hormones, various like mood things happening. Like I started to have a lot of, you know, I think just quite typical mood swings, and you know, I was very sensitive, deeply feeling, highly empathic, sensitive child, and this amplified, you know, with hormones, with a huge transition, and you know, just being a teenager and being around a lot of other kids that were also in constant transition, and a lot of kids that were really highly intelligent and quite like deeply emotionally challenged and disturbed in many ways. A lot of kids that were going through a lot of emotional struggle and hardship. I think, you know,
because they're probably got to be a little
the instability.
They got to be a little militant.
Yeah,
they're bottling things up. Don't have anybody to talk to. Life's too fast.
Yeah.
So how did you act? How did you act?
Yeah, I remember in 7th and 8th grade, I started experiencing a lot of bullying, which was really, really challenging. Yeah, very difficult.
You were a gymnast.
I was.
Probably had guns the size of Arnold.
Yeah.
So they want to mess with
you.
Okay.
Yeah. I experienced a lot of bullying. I transitioned from doing gymnastics full time to playing like 5 sports a year in middle and high school, and you know, was still having a lot of success with academics and with school, but socially it was very challenging at that time. It was a very small school, and in my entire grade, like in 7th grade, I think there were max 15 kids. So, and inside of those 15 kids, there's probably 12 different nationalities, which, you know, was amazing and such a rich learning experience, and you know, hard to find your tribe, your community, your counterparts, because one, there's very few to choose from, and people are coming from such divergent backgrounds and experiences. So, you know, and I think because of the transient nature of most of those children's lives and experiences, there was a lot of lack of safety in their system, and you know, the bullying and the the kind of social politics at that age are, to create a sense of safety within oneself when they don't have it otherwise. And, there are a lot of kids that had a lot of independence and raising themselves at a pretty young age. So yeah, and a really interesting kind of set of
how'd that impact you?
Circumstances.
Alora?
Yeah, the 7th through 11th grade, I remember having a lot of challenges emotionally. I experienced a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety. There was definitely periods of time with suicidal ideation. I experienced a pretty severe eating disorder. There were a lot of things that I was struggling with very internally and very privately, while on the outside still performing very well. Still, making great grades, VIP of all of the sports teams. Maybe had like a friend or two or a boyfriend, here and there, but pretty limited kind of community or group of or support system at that time.
What do you wish would have gone differently in that time period?
Yeah.
Maybe do you wish, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, this is just an example. Do you wish somebody would have stopped and asked you how you're really doing? Did they do that and you still were like, no, I'm good?
Yeah.
Like what, how did that look?
Yeah. I remember being, the majority of the people that I would relate to or connect with were actually the other teachers and a lot of the college interns that were teaching at the school. So I always got along much better with kids that were a lot older than me, or other adults. So I would hang out with my parents' friends and the adults so much more often than kids my age, and that was a great source of support and education. And I do wish my parents were a little, not necessarily more attuned, but just looked for maybe more resources to support me at that time. But I also remember keeping what I was struggling with very private, especially from them, because I didn't want to, blow up their big dream. And like they finally got to the place that they wanted to get to.
Is that really why?
No, yeah.
That was the only reason why?
That was a big part of it. I definitely protected them a lot. And they were very...
Go figure.
They were very overprotective, like if there was anything that I communicated to them that I was struggling with, oftentimes it would result in more kind of what felt like oppression or constriction or, it would feel like it would create more problems than alleviate them. So I just kept it to myself and dealt with it to myself.
Yeah. You're like, no, I'm going to go over here.
Yeah.
Y'all, please forget it. Okay.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, this period of kind of like, being a little lonely and internal and maybe not having like physicalized resources, I think really started my journey of seeking and learning both in the spiritual sense, and really started delving a lot into my research and studies of psychology and human consciousness and spirituality, and was really deeply investigating the human condition and what was available to human beings to improve their experience and their circumstances, especially from a psychological and emotional standpoint, not only for myself and what I was struggling with, but for, what I observed so many kids in my age group struggling with. So it was fascinating to me, and felt like a deep imperative for me to really understand the complexities of the human mind, the human operating system, the human emotional condition in order to better it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the light at the end of the darkness.
Yeah.
So what did it look like in your lowest point in that period of time? What did it look like? What would you say? How would you describe it? And then we're going to talk about how you got out of that.
Yeah. I remember especially when I was living in Morocco. This was in 11th and 12th grade, kind of another big transition, and a school and a group of peers that I felt like it was actually even more challenging to relate to and connect with for, a variety of circumstances. It's a longer story than it's worth. But I also, in both countries, but especially in Morocco, experienced some very intense and pretty chronic sexual harassment and sexual abuse in the public spaces and environment that I was in.
What
very
do you
persistent.
Mean? What do you mean? How?
Yeah. So
when you say yeah, does that mean you're going to answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So there, what I would experience, from age 12 to 18, anytime I would go outside, go to a shopping mall, go to the grocery store, be out and about with my friends. Many men, of all ages, yelling, leering, making very lewd gestures, trying to grab me, grope me, push me up against walls, slap me across the face, push me into bathrooms at restaurants, or like very very aggressive sexual harassment, sexual assault, just in the broad daylight, in really any places that I would go into. On a very consistent basis.
That's dark.
It was pretty intense, and it created this experience of kind of intense claustrophobia, especially while I was in Morocco. I felt very scared to go outside, like every time I'd leave my home, it would be a situation where, I'd really be having to protect my physical body, protect my energy, protect my being from attacks on so many different levels. And, just the perception of white Western women in those cultures and kind of in that religion or culture at that time, I get it and I understand it. And a lot of it stems from Western media. A lot of it stems from, just deep programming around difference and separation and, what their value system is in contrast to what they believe our value system is. So I understood it intellectually and, had space for that. In a certain sense, but the experience of it and its effect on me was pretty extreme. Yeah.
What was it like at its lowest point?
I mean, truly feeling like I didn't want to be here. Like I wanted to die. Like I didn't want to subject myself to that or be experiencing that. Feeling pretty trapped inside of that experience, especially as a teen, not having any feeling like I had a choice in where I was or an ability to get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Your little micro cuts, death by 1,000 cuts, right? Over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. So what ultimately turned for you? Because you didn't do that, right? You're living a beautiful life now. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
So what changed?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it was also a beautiful life then, and that's something I really believe and know and understand and have really taken a lot of time and intention to integrate inside of my own experience at every intersection of my life. Part of that context has been deeply painful and difficult and traumatic. And there's been so much beauty and opportunity and growth and, like true privilege inside of that. I mean, yes, I was experiencing some of these things at school and with men in those countries, and I had like such a privileged opportunity to travel to 20 different countries before I turned 18 and like learn from all of these different cultures and have so much freedom and autonomy as a young teenager. Like I really lived kind of a 20-something college lifestyle from age 13 to 18. Like I could take taxis to lounges and nightclubs and go out dancing on like at this luxury club on the beach till 5 a.m. and like the school systems that I was in, were taking college level classes, and I got to design my own like thesis. I mean, there were a lot of really unique and exceptional opportunities and experiences inside of that as well. And never want to discount or
right.
Yeah,
sounds like a wonderful adventure
for sure.
Like
for
so
sure.
unique.
Yeah, I mean, super full spectrum existence.
Malaysia, Morocco.
Mm-hmm.
What the heck? I don't even know what those are. It's great. Well, that's something to be proud of yourself for. The fact that you're able to manage those exceptionally trying times. It's a common theme. When we talk about this stuff on this show, it's very common, and it's like it's so disappointing that there's men out there that are like that there's cultures that are like that. It's so disappointing to me. And I wonder who has the power to change that. I really do. I wonder what the answer is for all of that. Who knows? Yeah. And I wonder if there's ever going to be an answer that's going to work. You just never know. Yeah. Okay. Very good. So high school. Yeah, we talked a little bit about being in high school. You're still doing gymnastics?
No. I tried for a little bit, but the facilities and the training just wasn't gonna be able to carry that through. So transitioned all of that energy and motivation to playing 5 sports a year instead.
5 sports?
Yeah.
5? 4 wasn't enough?
No, 4 wasn't enough.
What kind of
I just
sports?
did all of them.
What did you play?
Soccer, volleyball, track, basketball, swimming. Yeah.
You still do that stuff?
I mean, I'm still very active. I after high school got very serious into yoga, and that's been my primary practice, both on a physical and spiritual level, for most of my adulthood. And just stay as active as I can, whatever feels exciting or joyful to me.
Your brother? What the heck's he been doing this whole time? How's he?
I don't even know. He's just
like
living it up.
School?
Well, when we
y'all friends in high school?
He was almost 6 years younger than me. So this whole middle and high school time, he was just living it up, sliding down hills on cardboard boxes and carrying on, just playing badminton.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he was having a good time. He moved back to the States in 9th grade, so we kind of had like an inverse of like U.S. versus overseas schooling years.
Dang. What's one of the most vivid memories you have from being in high school era?
Being in high school. Yeah. One of my most vivid memories is actually playing a soccer game on this beautiful, like super green field overlooking the ocean in Singapore. And it was this soccer tournament. And I mean, this was the incredible thing about living overseas and being in these international school systems, I'd be on all these sports teams and in bands and in Model United Nations and all of these activities. And for every game, every tournament, every conference, we'd fly to another country. Like we'd go to Jakarta for a basketball game and then go to Beijing for a Model UN summit. And I mean, it's pretty
heck?
incredible.
How many countries you been to?
Now, probably about 25, 30 at this point. Yeah, but I mean,
there's only how many?
20. I don't know how many there are.
There's not too many countries. There's a lot, but it's doable though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's manageable.
A couple hundred? I don't know.
Yeah, I remember I knew that I traveled to 20 before I turned 18. I just kind of stopped counting after that.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
What was your favorite country so far?
My favorite country was probably Vietnam. Yeah, I had a really amazing experience there. Yeah, definitely because of the pho.
I like the pho. Yeah, no, I got a client from Vietnam, and she always brings me egg rolls.
Yeah.
Fresh homemade egg rolls.
I know that.
And by the dozen.
People are just so beautiful and generous and loving. And
yeah. Her name's Chow. Yeah. She went to Vietnam. She got me a hat, one of those
the rice petty hat.
Rice petty hat with some art on it. And then she gave me a rat ceramic. Yeah, because of the year of the rat. I said, Chow, I don't like rats, but this is awesome.
I don't know where I'm going to put this, but I get it.
It's bright yellow. Oh, that's cool. So, all right, well, Vietnam. What'd you do out there? When was that?
That was actually the first trip that we took after moving to Malaysia, and went there when I was in 7th grade. Yeah, it was so eye-opening for me. It was such an expansive experience, really understanding, and especially just the history of the Vietnam War. And you know, it was a very immersive experience. Like we went with a group that, you know, did like a proper tour and proper immersion and got to see many different parts of the country and really immerse ourselves in the culture of each of those communities. And yeah, it was really revelatory for me understanding kind of how other countries and cultures perceived Americans. Yeah, just kind of finally having like the lens turned back on you, and like being able to see how your color, how your culture, how your presentation and energy is perceived and experienced by others.
Yeah. Reminds me of my buddy Trentimus. You know him? Yeah, he was like, I went to Asia and people taking pictures with me everywhere I went.
Yeah, that was a big part in Vietnam. We went to these like indigenous villages up in the mountains, and they'd seen very few Caucasian people, and they were just like fascinated by my hair and my blue eyes and like touching me like I was like a magical fairy or something.
Wow. Sign me up. Yeah. I want to try that once at least. Put on the bucket list.
It's like, what planet did you come from?
You ever want to feel like a celebrity? Go to Vietnam.
Totally.
Okay. So you get out of high school eventually. All right. Probably one of the most challenging times of your lives. Yeah. You managed to pull through. Goodness gracious. I'm feeling what that could have possibly felt like. And that's tough. But, you know, at the end of every dark tunnel is the light. So how has that shaped your lens and how you treat people today? Yeah. How has that shaped you, that experience?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I know that I came into this, you know, this incarnation already very sensitive and empathic and deeply attuned to the energy and sort of emotional vibration of other people and animals. And, you know, I remember that from a very young age. And I really believe that everything that we experience, particularly our deepest, darkest, most challenging experiences in this life, you know, are designed for us to harness our superpowers and really shape and direct our dharma. And, you know, that experience was just, kind of a natural progression of that, really, in my perception at this point, and really gave me like a deep master class in the human experience, and really allowed me to touch and taste and feel what so many people experience in terms of the depth of challenge and defeat and struggle and aloneness. And, I know that was really necessary for the work that I do now, and being able to actually have empathy and a felt experience and a felt knowing of what that is, and to also know what is on the other side of it. And, I think you can only experience as much light as you have darkness. And, I'm really grateful that I experienced that much darkness and tragedy and loss, because I've experienced an equal and opposite amount of love and joy and ecstasis and magic. And and I really think that's a big part of what I came here to not only experience, but to be an example of, be sort of a lighthouse around, and to know that, we as humans have a capacity for all of it. And, that it's part of the gift of being a sentient being.
And what stood out to me the most when you were talking about that is the term felt experience. Mm-hmm. I'd say that some people aren't having a felt experience, and they're going through life numb, and it's probably because they're hiding from truths, hiding from pain. And it's easy to do that, especially nowadays with all these distractions. Yeah. Really, it's a dead-end road, and you're not going to reach your highest, truest, the thing that you said in the beginning of this podcast. Remember the words? You know what I'm talking about? Remember what you said?
Your true self, or your
expression. That yes, that. Yeah. I'm gonna get used to this lingo here. Okay, I'm 6 months into this space. Okay, Kaylee's brought me onto this.
I was watching a few clips from some of your podcasts, and I was like, I think Greg actually has like a master's level understanding of all of this, and he's just playing the fool for his own amusement. I really believe that. I was like, I'll entertain it.
Don't.
I see what's going on here.
Secret. This is how I learn more. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, this is really good. This is a lot of insights talking about this kind of thing. This is an extremely helpful podcast so far. Seriously, for anybody listening, this is really good. Yeah. You can tell that you're a pro. You're an expert at this. How long have you been involved in this?
Yeah, I've served in a therapeutic capacity professionally since I was about 21 years old. So almost about 20 years now.
And how did that look? Yeah. When you jumped into it?
Yeah, my first roles in this space were working in sexual and domestic violence shelters and residential treatment centers for children with emotional disturbance, or children and families who had experienced really deep trauma. And where
here
in Austin.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
My first internships in college.
So you went to college here?
I went to college in Connecticut, but my family
What's college?
Connecticut College in New London, Connecticut.
Wow, real original name. Mm-hmm. Connecticut College in Connecticut.
They really went for it with that one.
Paul, let's start a college. What should we call it, Steve?
And how I ended up in Connecticut after spending 6 years in Southeast Asia and North Africa, I'm really not sure. And I will say, moving to Connecticut out of everywhere I've lived and traveled was probably the biggest culture shock of anywhere I've ever been. So it's a whole different reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got cousins that live there. I know. It's a little country bumpkin up there.
It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, it was apparently the particular cultural immersion that I needed.
It's like butter and toast culture for a lot of butter and toast.
Yeah.
We're talking slang over here, by the way. Okay.
But yeah, my family moved to Austin
when?
While I was a sophomore in college. They stayed one more year in Morocco during my freshman year, and they moved to Austin. So I started coming back and forth here for Christmas and summer breaks, and started doing internships here in conjunction with my waitressing gigs that paid for books and stuff.
Okay. You come back from Morocco, get into college, 4 years in Connecticut, and then you were done. Year 4, you graduated and moved.
Yeah.
Where?
Austin. Yeah.
What was your college experience like? Did you party like a lot of college kids?
I definitely did some partying.
Like what?
Yeah. There's a lot of drinking in college. That
especially in Connecticut, a lot of Coors Lights and Bud Lights.
A lot of Busch Light, Coors Light, a lot of like recycle bin punch.
Yeah.
And like pour like handles of like cheap vodka and juice and Hawaiian punch.
Yeah, and their pickup trucks.
And then you get the solo cups. And
so you were living the country lifestyle in college, kind of.
Pretty wild. Yeah, it was so interesting. I mean, it was a very prestigious, highly selective, like very rigorous academic school. And I remember choosing it because it had a really good international studies program. And at that time, I thought I wanted to work for the UN serving the refugee mental health crisis. So that's what I was doing at that time. And it tracks. It checks out. And, so I was doing that by day and slamming recycle bin jungle juice by night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Often?
Interesting. Pretty often.
Why would you say you were doing that? A few nights a week, yeah.
Yeah,
but why were you doing that?
At least twice a week. I mean, it was part of the culture and how you connected, how you socialized. Definitely felt like how you got boys to like you, or at least give you some attention. I mean, it's kind of what the kids were doing.
Program.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
No regrets from college?
I definitely things now, like I sure I would have done differently, but I understand the level of awareness that I had at the time, and just what
more than most.
What I was doing to survive inside of that environment, and and yeah, I mean, like it was fun for what it was when it was not deeply damaging. Yeah.
Damage.
Yeah, and I mean, and
you got damaged.
I mean, there are definitely some.
What happened to you?
Questionable experiences.
What's one that comes to mind?
I mean, I think especially in that culture of like heavy drinking, and it was a completely residential college, so it was very small and completely residential. So all 2,000 kids lived on the campus. So the level of drinking and alcohol consumption was, I think, amplified because there wasn't the danger of driving home, and everybody felt very safe there and very communal. It was a big extended family, and I think there was a level of a false sense of safety with regard to the amount at which people could become intoxicated and enter into sexual experiences that were definitely not safe or healthy for them, psychologically, at the very least, because of that, like that level of just trust and knowingness. Like, you saw these people all of the time, so there was kind of a perception that they were maybe safer than they were, or connecting with them that in that way was safer than it actually was.
Yeah. What's an example of that?
I mean, there was a lot of like walk of shame culture, just like a big hookup and like casual sex culture at that college at that time.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, my college was nothing like that.
Really? What college did you go to?
I went to Iona.
Iona College.
Iona. It's in New Rochelle, New York.
Okay.
Okay, right, east of Yonkers.
Uh-huh.
Do you know any of that stuff?
I mean,
so like,
but a lot of most of the
from
kids from my school were from like just outside New York City or just outside Boston, Massachusetts.
Yeah. So those areas, right? That's where the school was. It's like a small Catholic college. I'm not Catholic. I went to the school because it was close to Manhattan. That's why I did it. It was like a 20-minute train ride in the Grand Central. Yeah, but there was none of that stuff. Most of the kids were like super driven. They wanted to be on television and or build big businesses and stuff. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I don't know, but you're going to college to save the world.
Well, I mean,
so everybody kids like that.
Kids were very driven and really intelligent and really successful, and there was a lot of escapism through alcohol, casual sex. There wasn't a lot of drug use that I was aware of.
Interesting that
it was an interesting dichotomy.
Like that. Yeah. That's got me going down the rabbit hole. Okay, if that college had that kind of culture, what kind of culture do other colleges? I went to a school. Which one was that? It was like a SUNY school up in the woods of New York, and I must have seen 11 drugs in 20 minutes.
Wow!
When I was at this frat house, and actually, something that I really lost a lot of respect for those guys is that they were bringing up some really evil drugs. Evil deed stuff, and I'm like, get me the freak out of here. This is not cool. Like, is this really like, all right, anyways, yeah, wow. So you had a unique experience in college too. That's great. Way to make it through that as well.
Yeah, really checking all the boxes.
What a riot. So when did you get some stability in your life? After yoga.
Yeah, a lot of yoga. Yeah, I mean, I really recognize that, like throughout all of these experiences, the common thread was I was always deeply driven, very intentional, very, altruistic. Everything that I was doing and learning and building was, my intention was to be of service. And also, I recognized there was a part of me that was in a lot of pain, and there were certain environments or, behaviors or access points that, kind of allowed me to dissociate from that or numb that or cope with that in a way that felt socially acceptable, or, a way that would also another access point for trying to get the love that I was desiring. And, I've always felt a deep sense of inner stability and inner knowingness. Like, I know that I have me and I can do anything. Like, anything that I decide, I will be exceptional at, and it will be for the benefit of as many people as possible. And I know there's a part of me that, especially as a teenager and during aspects of my 20s, was experiencing and experimenting with other aspects of the human experience and of this reality. And I now see that as, also kind of a part of my anthropological nature of studying the human experience and, wanting to feel and experience all of that myself. I think partly to have poetry to write about, and another part to be able to relate to what others are going through, others that, I desire to or know that I can support.
That's really good. What would you say is the most impactful experience for your college experience? A particular moment? Or perhaps something you're the most proud of about your college experience?
Yeah. The woman who was either our valedictorian or our class speaker, the woman who was chosen on our graduation day to speak for our entire class, who I only had, I think, one or two classes with in freshman or sophomore year, very early on. She chose like 3 or 4, students, other class members to speak about, to kind of use as a case study for how diverse and exceptional and interesting our class was. And I was one of the people that she spoke about, and really spoke to this aspect of, like, from the outside, I remember some of it, like, I might look like just, a typical white girl from Texas, but, actually getting to know me and the diversity of my experience and the diversity of my knowledge and wisdom and all of the different cultural influences and life experiences that have amalgamated that is so unique and rare and one of a kind. And I just really loved kind of being an example or a case study of, can't judge a book by its cover, and things are not always what they seem, and everyone has a story, and the depth of one's, everyone has deep wisdom. And, when we go beyond the surface appearance or surface assumptions of what somebody is or where they come from, there's so much that we can learn and gain from that.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, wisdom. I think wisdom is underappreciated, and it's not talked about enough. Mm-hmm. It's not preached enough about in school when you're growing up. Yeah. When do you ever really talk about getting wisdom and how precious it is in school, right? Think about how important it is. Mm-hmm. Imagine if that's what you talked about most of the time.
Yeah.
We have some wise people up in here.
Sure, yeah. I think knowledge is very valued and overvalued, but wisdom doesn't seem to really register for most people until much later in life. Mm.
So let's do a little experiment here, a little exercise rather. So let's say, for example, one of those men out on the street that is thinking about acting out of integrity and doing something that's going to harm somebody, a female, okay? If you were to have a written statement that man can read before doing something like that will stop him from doing that, as a reality check, what would it say on that paper?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this experience actually followed me through a lot of my time in New York as well. There was a lot of street harassment. I lived in New York City and in Brooklyn for 7 years, and it's like construction workers and like whatever. Just an interesting dharma around this. But I found myself in New York, and this was after working as a social worker in the mental health space for about 5-7 years in Austin, primarily with teenage boys who had a lot of psychological disturbance and trauma and emotional issues that they were struggling with. And I always found myself kind of in a seat of education and reformation, and really desiring to convey to anyone that is acting out of pain and acting out of powerlessness, acting out of a place of fear, and working to feel safe by making others feel unsafe. There were so many moments where it was less about my words and what I would convey to them, but just really meeting them with the presence of my truth inside of that experience. I found myself many times, in my first few years as a professional in the mental health space, being a subject of a certain level of attack or abuse, or kind of victimization, and then that carrying through into, just trying to get from one subway stop to the other in New York. There are many times that I would confront that and meet them and just be like, do you have a sister? Do you have a mother? Like, is this how you would want her to be treated? And just like really try to relate to them. Like, hi, like, I'm a human being, and I'm not hurting you. Like, I'm not here to hurt you. So why are you doing this to me? I don't feel safe with what you're doing. This hurts me. This makes me feel really unsafe. Please stop. And it's scary and it's challenging to rise into that level of exposure and vulnerability. Because so many times you'd want to fight back, or just like fight back with violence to whatever small degree I could in my 5'3" body. But yeah, meet anger, meet pain with pain. But yeah, meet that pain with vulnerability and with truth, and with an attempt to elicit humanity and elicit compassion, and show them that I see that they're hurting as well, and that's why they're behaving in this way.
Who talks like this? Elicit humanity? I've never heard that in my life. I'm going to go elicit some humanity today. But for real, I think more people need to speak like this, because these are words that mean a lot.
Thank you, Greg.
They do. Yeah. Again, they don't teach that in elementary school. This is how you elicit humanity. They don't. It's like, there's some math.
Well, I really credit my parents to that in a lot of ways. Like my parents have such big hearts, and they really instilled in me from a very early age, like the golden rule, like treat others the way you would want to be treated, and like always, like imagine walking in somebody else's shoes, and give more than you receive. And my dad still to this day drives around town with like a stash of peanut butter and jelly jars in his trunk to give to homeless people.
Generic brand?
Generic brand for sure. Or like what he finds in bulk at Costco. Yeah, still on the budget aisle, definitely.
If it's a good week, he's going to get the Smuckers, right?
Smuckers and the Skippy, like we're going for it. But
dude. Oh my gosh. Have you and Ronnie ever had a peanut butter jelly date night where you got some Schmuckers?
No. Yeah, I think processed foods have been out of both of our realities for quite some time.
Fair. Okay, fair. That's nice. Okay. That's good. All right. We got to get back on track here, because there's a couple more things to talk about, right? You're in college, you get out of college, you're doing yoga now, whole new world, right? Put down 5 sports, you put down gymnastics, you're on the mat, spiritual. That was like the start of it all, wasn't it, for you?
Yeah, definitely.
In the spiritual journey?
A start of a new layer of it, yeah.
Yes. When you moved back to Austin after school, right? Am I getting that right? Okay. What did you do right away? Yeah. What was that?
Yeah. My first job, my first full-time salary-based employment was working at an organization called Safe Place. It's a sexual and domestic violence shelter. And I worked there for about 6 months, and then transitioned to working for the Texas Department of Health and Human Services in child protective services. I worked as a social worker in the mental health space for children who were largely in the foster care system, largely like wards of the state. many who kind of were in and out of psychiatric treatment. And basically served as their surrogate mother for a period of about 2 years. Yeah,
what is that?
They were I don't know. They're essentially, they were without parents. They had been removed from their biological homes because of extreme abuse or neglect, and so they were under the state's conservatorship. So the state was completely responsible for all aspects of their life and well-being. So I worked as a social worker, a caseworker, for typically a caseload of about 40 to 45 kids at a time, managing all aspects of their life.
An office job. No?
Kind of an office field job. So I would travel around the state of Texas all day, all week, visiting kids who were housed and placed at foster care, at foster homes, or at kind of residential treatment centers, which were sort of like the halfway between like a psychiatric facility and a foster home, kids that needed an additional level of care. And so I'd travel around visiting them at their schools or their homes, taking them to and from doctor's appointments or rehousing them if they like got kicked out of a home, taking them to a new space. And kids that were who were struggling at an intense level, and working with them individually, and then sometimes working with the people managing their homes, and sometimes with their biological families for the purposes of rehabilitation and reunification.
Huh.
Just light work, right out of college. Yeah, it was.
How long is the average person work in that position?
Not very long.
Not very long.
It's super difficult. And there's a huge aspect which I really only fully understood and appreciated kind of after getting out of this element of secondary trauma. You're so immersed in that world, and you're so deeply kind of entangled and intimate with the stories and experiences and energy of these beings, these children, these humans, in like the most dire circumstances you can imagine in the developed world. People who have experienced, like torture, like absolute torture, and being so immersed in that space, and also working in the matrix, the environment of the government, and the Health and Human Services Department was such a wild reality. And working with a lot of people that were in deep financial poverty and scarcity. So yeah, it was a whole like dimensional reality that was just like deeply immersed in trauma, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. It's almost as if like you were to watch a drama movie, one after the next, after the next, after the next. What that would do to your mind.
Oh yeah.
And that's
it was like binging, like CSI, Intervention, whatever all the other ones, like 24/7.
That's gonna affect you.
Yeah.
And that's just a movie, which is like fake or whatever.
Yeah.
You're in real life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was deemed like that was my role, and I felt absolutely personally responsible for the safety, well-being outcome of these children.
I don't know about that. Yeah. 2 years max.
Yeah.
That's intense.
And as like a fresh graduate, driving around in my Ford Focus, like, and being in some really compromising, kind of dangerous circumstances, like picking kids up from meth houses and removing them from their gang member families, and going to court every week to present these cases in front of judges with the families right there.
No.
So wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even I know somebody that was in the foster care system when they were 5 years old, and their parents were smoking a pack of cigarettes with the car doors closed, windows closed. They were chucking plates at each other. They would take the person that I know's hands and put them on the compressor of an air conditioning unit without the plastic to give freeze burn as a punishment. Real terrible stuff. Yeah. So did you get any glimpse of that where the foster parents were all jacked up? Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, what is that all
prevalent
about? It's more prevalent, right? It's supposed to be a good thing. It's the anti-good thing.
Terrible.
What? What's going on around here?
The whole system's in pretty dire straits, to say the least. And I mean, it was...
Jeez.
It was, very, very difficult environment to operate within and just be exposed to, just recognizing that, I'm only operating in this one unit, in this one county, in this one microcosm inside of Texas, and there's my caseload is triple the size that is nationally recommended. I'm only one person, and there are hundreds and thousands of people doing the exact same thing throughout the state, throughout the country. What people are experiencing in that dimensional reality is
what do you mean the dimensional reality?
That
what does that mean? That world?
That world that most people don't recognize is happening kind of right under their noses.
And you'd think, right? Because we all pay our taxes around here, and it adds up to a reasonable amount of money. You'd think that it would go to maybe, hey, send someone to the house once a month. Really ask the kids how they're doing.
Not where your tax dollars are going.
What?
It's a whole other podcast.
It's a whole other podcast. Yeah, well, we should get that going here. But seriously, it sounds like such a simple checks and balance measure.
I mean, and that's really, both inside of that system, and then I worked as a social worker inside of the public school system for a few years right after that. And what was so difficult for me was, just wanting to help so badly and feeling so constrained by these systems and kind of by the, proverbial red tape, bureaucratic red tape that, you could really only do so much. And I found that so profoundly limiting and distressing, that the extent at which I wanted to serve and support and help, and the level of knowledge that I had that couldn't be fully accessed or utilized because of just what the requirements of those roles were, was what ultimately led me out of that world and into the next one.
Yeah. Roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yes, I found yoga during that time as just a way to cope and survive. Yeah.
For real. Yeah. Now, eventually along the way, between then and now, you got married.
I did.
So I hear.
Yes.
Right before we started recording this today. What happened there?
Yeah.
How'd you meet this person?
I mean, it's so interesting tracing all of this back and really, really recognizing how many lives I've lived inside of this one. They've all been pretty.
You're gonna sleep good tonight.
I'm excited about that. Yeah.
You were like, oh my God. You're like, oh,
my life. What is this?
College.
Wow, I know. This is beautiful. This is material I haven't revisited at this depth in really probably ever. So I appreciate it. This is a great therapy session for me, Greg.
So I'm sitting like a therapist. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Very good. So where were you when you met up with this person here?
Yeah.
Because this is a pivotal moment in your life. Mm-hmm. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Right? Unless I missed something between then and then. Probably a couple of things, but we're going to talk about this today.
Yeah.
Because I know about it.
Yeah. It's a big part of my story, a big part of my experience.
Yeah.
I met my ex-husband here in Austin when I was about 26 years old. 25, 26.
Young.
Yeah, pretty young. And we we dated for about a year, lived together for about a year in Austin. And then shortly after getting engaged, he got a job offer in New York City. And we moved there and started a whole new chapter.
In Brooklyn?
In Brooklyn.
Really? So that's what you were doing in Brooklyn?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. And then eventually along the way, something happened, and then it just didn't work. And then you moved back to Austin, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What would you say the most valuable lesson is from that experience?
For my marriage?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we were together for 12 years, and, you know, we experienced so many seasons of life and versions of ourselves, and, you know, really, really built a life together in that period of time.
Did you have a dog?
We had two different dogs.
Two different ones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One and then
okay.
Then a replacement dog.
Yeah.
You know, we were quite young and just sort of starting out when we met. When we moved to New York, I was in a master's program for psychotherapy, and I was also starting to do all of these training and certification programs for somatic therapy and deeper training into yoga, and really kind of going in the Eastern integrative route of therapy. And when we moved to New York, I started developing and operating wellness-based businesses, and did that for really the 7 years that I was in New York. So it was, really developed a whole different aspect of, you know, my professional skill set, and I really got to experience a whole new dimension of myself. But you know, what I learned in the 12 years, if I can summarize it into one thing, was just really the reality of how mutable and ever changing and ever evolving we are and always will be.
As people?
As people, yeah.
And what I'm gleaning from that statement is that you both changed so much.
We changed a lot, many times over.
Many times over.
Yeah.
And then at one point, the paths were just in the opposite directions.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, to make a long story very short. Sure, I mean, yeah.
We're not going to get into politics here, folks. We're going to keep it the light, fluffy version, okay? Yeah. Oh, that's a good lesson. That's a good lesson. A good thing to be aware of. Now, how do you apply that lesson into your life today?
You know, it's always this balance of having a direction and a focus, and, you know, a path that you are walking and being guided by something, and leaving enough room for all of the unknown aspects of your experience to be able to inform next steps. And I think in earlier versions of life, I was much more of a long-term planner and had, you know, like very clear goals and intention, and like, okay, 4 years college, then I'm going to have my master's, and I'm going to build a private and doing this. And then, you know, it's like 5-year plan for this, 10-year plan for that. Operating from a much more linear framework. And, you know, I think just with experience and age and wisdom and an openness to the reality of how quickly and consistently one evolves, I really recognize that, you know, we really only get the next step in terms of our ability to determine what our life will look like, and how to to respond and listen to the guidance that comes in. I think people spend a lot of time trying to figure it out from a place of the mind and control, and from a very linear, like operational, and looking at other examples of what they think they want and people that have made it or succeeded or have the things that they have in certain categories. But again, like so much of my experience and so much of the work that I do is bringing people home to their truth, their inner guidance system, their intuition, and creating a space for guidance from a higher power, however they want to conceive of that, whether it's intuition, whether it's God, nature, the universe, their guides, their higher self, whatever it is that supports them in their human experience, leaving room for that force, for that energy to inform you each step along the way, and giving adequate space to not get too far ahead of ourselves and think with our limited understanding, our limited experience, that I can see, that much further ahead, and really aligning to the mystery that is life, and that is this experience, and having enough groundedness within oneself to trust that we will be guided and we will be protected and supported along the way. But the very next step, the one right in front of us, is really truly all we get. There's this beautiful like meme that I saw the other day around trust, and it was this little man like climbing a ladder, and got God's hand or whatever, just putting like, you're reaching and the rung isn't there, like right until like you grasp, and God's there just like putting one rung up in front of the other. And yeah, I really resonated with that and feel that experience so much more now in my life.
Yeah, and part of what you described, correct me if I'm wrong, is operating out of love as opposed to fear, which has been a big theme in my life. I don't know if there's a reason behind it, because I don't think I operate out of fear, but it keeps presenting itself. It's always coming up in conversation, right? And I think just saying it and having people hear it more and more and more is a great reminder, a great way to spread positivity, to be the light in the dark. Yeah. It's like a little reality check. Hey, are you operating out of love or fear right now?
Yeah. What does operating out of love mean to you, or look like, or feel like to you?
Trusting the process, not being outcome oriented, enjoying the present, right? God can be found in the present. Yeah. He's found in the space that are between your thoughts. Right? So, it's hard to be loving when you're like, what am I going to do next? And you feel all anxious and all that nonsense. Yeah. So let me ask you this. Let's say it is 100 years from now. Big 100. And you got some family members that want to get to know you a little better. What do you want to say to them?
Trust yourself. Know that you are always seen, always supported, always divinely protected. You are love. You are truth. This human experience is whatever you decide it to be, whatever you choose. You really have the power and the capacity to create here, and there's nothing that is unavailable to you.
It's true. It's choice. We bring it up all the time. Power of choice. Yeah. We need to be aware of that power. We need to tap into that every day. Right? It's one of the most powerful things we can do as people choose. You can choose. People always go, Greg, I always got so much energy, Greg. And I say, because I choose to. Greg, you're always fired up. How come? Because I want to be.
Yeah.
It's my standard.
Yeah.
It's a choice.
Right. And just really, like, it is a choice, and really, I think helping people to understand that choice goes beyond the choosing of the mind. What is happening on a quantum level and on a biological level is that choice is creating, rearranging, restructuring your cellular makeup, which changes your vibrational field, which changes your quantum reality, which plugs you into a dimensional field, a reality, a vibration that supports that reinforces that amplifies that. And, we're not only choosing our reality and constructing our reality, we're rebuilding our selves on a biological and multidimensional level through that choice, and everything responds to that. It's like what comes first, consciousness or the mind? Consciousness creates the experience that is magnetized and drawn into you, and you get to decide what kind of pole of magnet you are, and what you attract and what you recirculate from that space of decision.
Is there a graph of that? Like a picture that you can look at?
I mean, I kind of like, in a sense, visualize it as the toroidal field.
What is it? How do you spell that?
Toroidal. Toroidal.
Toroidal? I can look that up.
Yeah.
Turoidal, something like that. Toroidal field.
Yeah, spelling was never my...
Well, the thing is, toroidal field, right? Uh-huh. I've never heard of that one.
You've never heard of that?
Not once.
Oh.
But I can get it.
Yeah.
I get it what it is.
Yeah, it's like energy coming in through the center and out through and just like constantly recirculating and, becoming itself, and then presenting itself, creating everything in and outside of it through this constant loop.
Yeah.
Like the spiral of creation.
But you said some other things. You said stuff like quantum field. Okay.
And I just say that from time to time.
Ready? Quantum.
It's all the rage these days. Yeah.
Yeah. How about this? Hold on a minute. We're just going to talk about this for a second. We're going to wrap this up. So quantum, right? This dude, Joe Dispenza, brings people into the quantum, and apparently all these types of seminars that he hosts, whenever he does this, people start walking out of their wheelchairs. Yeah. What do you mean, yeah? What do you mean, yeah?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
It's real.
How is it real? How does it work? How's that a thing? Why doesn't everybody do that for everything then? Yeah. For real. Why not? You know what I'm saying? Come on.
It's possible, but it's because of the way we're constructed and kind of our operating systems and the programs of the mind and the density of the body and the, this can be a whole other series of podcasts.
Don't do it. We're keeping it light for this.
It's possible.
Yeah.
And it's very, very real, but it's also not super easy for most people to access. It does take a degree of practice and belief and acceptance and practice to achieve that state of merging with the energy field of pure possibility, where you can create and construct and reconstruct matter through the field of the unseen, through the field of the quantum.
How far is the quantum?
It's infinite.
It's infinite, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's everywhere. It's everything.
Freaking.
Yeah, and I mean, we are always
How cool is that?
participating and co-creating with it.
Right.
And when we are it, our body is a quantum technology.
We got to teach a class on this. How do you treat your body? How to capitalize? How to maximize your body as a quantum technology?
Yeah.
Can you imagine a college class on that?
Yeah.
Your class on that? You should teach one.
I will.
I'd pay. I'd be in the class. For real. You tell me how to do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's
No,
incredibly powerful, super magical, but also incredibly tangible reality.
All right, remember that. Mark her words. It's a tangible reality. Yeah. All right? So check this out. We're going to play a little game to wrap this up. Because we've been going, believe it or not, for 2
Wow. I have no doubt. I had no doubt. Yeah. Yeah. We went in. We went all the way.
I think I got to start
way
doing
past our bedtime already.
Same.
Wow.
Same. So we're going to do a little fun speed round. Okay?
Favorite.
Yeah. As short of answers as possible. We're not going to do one-word answers. Just as short as you can. Ready? Ready, and best date night in Austin. Spot. Date night spot.
Abba
Mediterranean. Barbecue or tacos? Tacos. Torchy's or Taco Deli?
El Tacorindo. I like that one better.
That's not an option, but that sounds pretty good. Where is that?
Right on South 1st Street and Old Torf.
What's a hidden talent that no one knows about that you've got?
Well, I got a mean handstand game. Yeah. I mean, we kind of alluded to that.
How many times a week do you do a handstand? Randomly.
4 times a week at least. Yeah. Do a lot of handstanding out of Barton Springs. Yeah, in the sunshine. That's my typical daily practice.
Get them shoulders activated.
Yeah.
That's great.
You got to flip upside down.
Yeah.
And it's like you got to turn your reality upside down, like ideally once a day, just to, reset your perspective.
What kind of humor makes you laugh the most?
Like really dry, sarcastic humor.
Dry, sarcastic.
Yeah, your particular brand of humor, I find quite amusing.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great. What's your favorite color?
I really like black, but I also like aquamarine, kind of like mermaid blue.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Last question. If you could say a statement to your parents right now that would be impactful, what would you say to your parents? Because they had a lot to do with who you are today.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And then we'll wrap this up.
I love you both so much. You're absolute angels. I'm so grateful that I chose to be your daughter.
Dang. Fired up. Alora, how do people get a hold of you?
The best way right now is via my Instagram page.
Yeah.
I'm in the midst of building and rebranding my website and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So Instagram, it's at I am Alora Rose. I also have my private practice Instagram at Spirit Body Therapy. But either one of those is the best portal for communication at this time.
All right. Now you know what portal to use, folks. Thank you so much. Alora Rose, thank you so much for hopping on today. Yeah, what a riot. Holy smokes.
This is amazing.
This is fired up.
So much.
Wow.
This is amazing.
Likewise. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I definitely, I'm going to buzz after this one for a few days, I can tell.
Yeah, me too.
It's good.
I'm either crashing right away or I'm not sleeping for like the next 2 days.
Could go either way. Yeah, I've heard both. Good.
Yeah.
Folks, thank you so much for watching. Of course, give Alora Rose a shout on IG. And most importantly, stay fired up.